Hi everyone, it's Nora, the Lekker Queen here. Today I'm showing you some of my trailing plants. Yeah, I know, trailing. A lot of you guys know me for loving moss balls, having lots of plants on moss balls, but I do love a trailing plant as well. And today I'm going to show you all of them. I will try to show you all of them and yeah, have a look. I hope you like them. First up, had to be a Hoya. You walked right into this one. This is my Hoya Herscheliana variegata. I absolutely adore this little plant. When I got this plant, it was quite tiny and it took a really long time for it to settle and actually start growing. But I'm loving the progress that she's making and she looks absolutely fantastic. She's living in lekker clay balls, and as you can see, she's living in a tiny 10 centimeter pot. Check out those roots. They are just absolutely amazing. This plant is just really so gorgeous because look at those tiny, tiny leaves, right? Look at this one. This is a new little leaf that's coming and it's still got that tinge of pink or red before. Look, that's what it's going to look like eventually. I just love the colors on this plant. You've got the white, you've got the green, you've got the pinks, and it is just absolutely fantastic. My goal for this plant is to eventually have it growing in a large bowl. You know, like I've got one of those lechuza bowls, like a really big bowl, and just having cascading down, maybe put it up on a, where there's a staircase or something and just have it falling down and just looking absolutely magnificent. That right there is my Hoya Herscheliana variegata, looking the business. All right, moving on from Hoyas, this is a Scindapsus plant. I think this is my Scindapsus silver lady. To be honest, I'm not sure. This is what the little tag says. I don't trust it, but I think this is a silver lady. Scindapsus plants can be a little bit confusing. So if you don't know this as a Scindapsus silver lady and you think it's something else, please let me know in the comments below. But that is my Scindapsus silver lady. It really is just the one vine. Hang on, let me try and untangle it. It's the one vine in that pot. And I don't like that at all. And you can see parts of the plant where it hasn't had as much light. See how the internodal spaces there are quite a lot wider than when the plant started, right at the bottom there. So what I am going to do for this plant actually is I'm going to chop it up because I think it will definitely look better as a bushier plant and not what it looks like now. I'm going to chop it up, propagate, and when those cuttings have rooted, I'll put them back in that pot so that my Scindapsus silver lady looks fabulous. But that's it. That's my little Scindapsus. There's not much to say about this plant. The leaves are really, I love the shape of the leaves. I love those heart-shaped leaves. I love the silver that takes over that dark green. Apart from that, it's not really doing much. I really should propagate this plant and help it to shine. That is my Scindapsus silver lady. Look at these gorgeous mamas. Look at those. That is my neon epipremnum, or, colloquially known as a neon porpos. Look at those leaves. Look at that. That's a new leaf there. That there is also a new leaf, looking absolutely magnificent. Look at those aerial roots. That plant really wants to climb on something. This plant actually used to be a climbing plant. I did have it up on a moss pole. I didn't quite like how it was going. I just decided to rip the pole apart and take cuttings and propagate, and that's what I've ended up with. And I'm really thinking that I don't really want to make another moss pole. I have way too many moss poles. I think I'd rather this plant just become a trailing plant. So because the stem is still quite thick, it's not yet falling. I'll show you the other one. This is the other one. This one has got smaller leaves. Look at that one. They're so cute though. They're so cute. And you can see the difference in leaf color, right? Look at this one. It's so much darker than the newer growth. And that's only because I'm giving this plant a lot more light than it was getting before, which is probably why it wasn't doing so well on the moss pole anyway. So I'm giving it more light I'll show you the other one as well. You can see the difference in color. So the new growth is a lot more neon than the older growth. That's because it's getting more light. So this is my neon pothos or my epipremnum neon plant, looking absolutely fantastic. And I am going to let this keep trailing, and it is going to be a masterpiece. It really will. Let's look at a different kind of plant this time. This is a Syngonium. Yeah, I know. This is a trailing Syngonium. This is my Syngonium Wendelandi. I have very mixed feelings about this plant. Me and this plant have not had a very good history. I've been trying to get this plant to look fabulous for many years now, and it absolutely refuses. And I think this is the best that I'll ever get it to look. Of course, it is living in leca clay balls as well. That's a 14 centimeter pot. Then look at those roots. I'll put that reservoir down. Look at that. It's absolutely phenomenal. But look at those leaves. They're so, so pretty. The dark green and that vein that's striking right through the middle is absolutely fantastic. I don't know how many plants there are in this pot. I think it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like there are 4 plants in that pot. I don't know. This plant, honestly, I'm actually surprised that it is still in my home. I would have thought I'd have given this plant away by now. Like I said, we have a love-hate relationship. But sometimes I look at it and I think it looks really, really cute, So I think she's here to stay. This is my Syngonium Wendelandi, and I absolutely love her. I could actually also be butchering that name. It probably isn't Wendelandi. I don't know. But, I've probably got it written up there. Read that. That's what it is. How amazing is that? My Syngonium. Let's have a Monstera this time. And this is my Monstera adansonii. Oh, Swiss cheesy type plant. Look at those fenestrations. This plant is just gorgeous. Look at that. Never mind having variegations and all those really expensive plants. Plants like these are just so simple, so readily available, cheap, and just have a lot of bang for their buck. Look at it. It's absolutely fantastic. This plant is actually living in tetrabase. So this is a plant that's not living in leca like most of my other plants. This is tetrabase. It's a recycled plastic growth medium that really is used a lot for people who are actually doing deep water culture, not necessarily passive hydroponics like I do. So I put this plant in this tetrabase and look at those roots. Those roots have absolutely gone insane. This plant is really, really happy. To be honest, tetrabase, my opinion, for passive hydroponics, I think all it's doing is just providing that scaffolding for that plant, because unlike a tetrabase actually doesn't wick the nutrient solution to the top, it doesn't have any capillary action because of course it is plastic. So all it does is really provide that support structure for the plant to actually sit in that pot and be stable. And because it's got that shape, that crisscrossy shape, it does hold on to the plant really, really well. But you really do always have to have your reservoir full, like with a plant with leca anyway, and that plant will thrive. So yeah, I've had my Monstera adansonii living in this tetrabase for a few months now, and she seems really, really happy. And, look at that. That's an area root over there. That plant really does want to attach. There's another one over there. It really does want to climb onto something. It's looking for some support. But I'm probably going to let it continue with its trailing path. I love it. I love the trailing. And there's 3 plants in there. I might actually propagate and put more because I think I love the way it looks as it is trailing. That's my Monstera adansonii living in tetrabase, which is recycled plastic. All right, let's look at a philodendron this time. This is a trailing philodendron plant. This is my philodendron cream splash. Oh, hang on. I'm trying to separate that. It does not want to. There we go. That is my cream splash. Look at those leaves. They are absolutely magnificent. I love how you've got that in the middle there, that vein there. You've got that distinct white lime green color in the middle. Then you've got the dark green along the sides. It looks a lot like a Philodendron Brazil, actually, and it does have similarities with Philodendron Rio. So maybe one of these days I'll do a video about the differences between a Philodendron Brazil, Rio, and a cream splash. But this is a cream splash, and she looks absolutely fantastic. She is also living in a 10 centimeter pot. I'll put that reservoir down. 10 centimeter pot in my Leca clay balls, and look at that fantastic root system. How amazing is that? Look at that. It looks absolutely brilliant. This plant is really, really healthy, and I haven't touched this root system at all. So this is a question that always comes up. What do you do when the roots hit the reservoir? I pretty much do nothing. I haven't touched this plant in months. And you can see those roots are happy. They are absolutely fine to live in that reservoir. So you can leave that plant alone and it will be fine. So I have recently revamped the way I'm growing my plants at the moment, and I do have a lot of grow lights put up now. So I'm hoping that with the raise in temperature, because we're in summer at the moment, and the additional light, those leaves are going to stop looking so teeny tiny and get a little bit bigger for me, so this plant starts to look magnificent. But like I was talking about my Philodendron Rio, if you haven't seen the video where I talk about my Philodendron Rio, just click on the link above and it'll take you to it. I'm wondering what this plant would look like on a moss pole. I can't run away from moss poles. They're kind of almost part of my DNA now. So I'm always curious to see what a trailing plant will do on a moss pole, because look at that. Look at the area roots on this plant. Those are all area roots. This plant really is looking for some support, wants to climb, and I wonder what it will look like on a moss pole and how much bigger those leaves will get. So if you'd like to see me do that, just let me know in the comments below, and I might propagate this plant, take some cuttings, and have them start to grow on a moss pole. That is my Philodendron Cream Splash. Okay, now that I've talked about my Cream Splash, I'll show you my Philodendron Rio. This is my Philodendron Rio. I love this plant. I think one of the differences between a Philodendron Rio and a Cream Splash is that the Rio is a little bit whiter than the Cream Splash. This is what I think. The white on there, I think, is a little bit more white than the Cream Splash. I'll show you the Cream Splash so you can compare the two of them side by side. See, that is the Cream Splash, that is the Rio. To me, this looks a lot more yellow and, this is a bit more white. So I think that's one of the differences. And I think that the leaves of the Cream Splash are a lot more heart-shaped than the leaves of the Rio. Just take a look. I think these leaves are a lot more skinnier and long and tapered than the Cream Splash. But yeah, that's it. That is my Philodendron Rio. That is also living in a tiny 10 centimeter pot, and that's the root system over there. But what I am starting to find with my trailing plants that are living in 10 centimeter pots, like this Philodendron Rio and my Philodendron Cream Splash, is that as the plant starts to trail and get bigger and longer, it is exerting a bit of, pressure downwards like that. And the pot is starting to become a little bit unsteady. So I need to do something about this sooner rather than later. So one of the more easier ways of solving this problem is to just repot the plant and put it in a bigger pot, like the one that my Syngonium wendellandi was in, which is a 14 centimeter pot instead of a 10 centimeter pot. And that just allows more room, and it's basic physics. You're changing the center of gravity and all that kind of stuff. So I might have to do that for this plant. But look at this one. Look at this one. It's huge. It's really, really big and it's looking absolutely fantastic. That is my Philodendron Rio, looking magnificent. She may also need to go on a moss pole. Part of her might need to go on a moss pole as well. And she definitely needs a repot. Philodendron Rio. Keeping on the theme of heart-shaped trailing philodendrons, this is my Philodendron heart leaf. Ah, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous heart-shaped leaves of my Philodendron heart leaf. She is living in leca, of course, in a 14 centimeter pot. You can see that's a 14 centimeter pot, and that's the reservoir over there. And that is some new growth there. And you can see the color of the new growth. It comes out looking a bit more brown, and then that changes into the green color. But you can also see the area roots there. So many area roots. This plant is looking for support, like they all do, because that's what they do. But look, there's so much of her. There is so much of her. This plant is loving life. That is new growth. There's just absolutely new growth everywhere. But like I said, I talked about the plant getting a little bit side heavy. This plant is doing the same thing. I mean, she is in a 14 centimeter pot. So the whole gravity that I talked about earlier has been rectified a little bit, but it's still a lot of plant trailing down on the side. I'm not sure what the solution for that problem is. And I think I saw something on Facebook on one of the leca pages where someone was actually asking that question. What do you do, with your trailing plants living in leca or passive hydroponics to sort of prevent that thing where they're just falling to the side because of the way they're positioned? So if you guys have any ideas, please let me know in the comments, because I would love to know what I'm going to do with my gorgeous babies, because I absolutely love them to bits, and I have no intention of putting this plant up on a moss pole, largely because I have this plant already living on a moss pole back there. On one of these pioneers, I'll show it to you because she is a massive moss pole. But this one is my Philodendron heartleaf that is trailing, living in leca clay balls. Next up is a Monstera, trailing Monstera that I have a bit of trouble with. I'm not loving this plant at all, and it is the Monstera Peru. This is my Peru, looking fabulous at the top, right? I love those long leaves, and obviously there was a fair bit of leaf damage there. I must have cut that off at some point. Look at that. Isn't that fantastic? I think this is my best looking leaf. This one. It's gorgeous. Absolutely glorious. Best looking. And there's a new leaf over there that looks really, really nice. And that's where the good story stops, because look at that vine. Very, very long internodal spaces. Look at that. And that's the space between one leaf and the next. So long. So it does look pretty sparse. And look, that is the new growth on that. I am not liking that at all. And it really is just the one plant in there. So this plant is really crying out for some rehab. I need to propagate this plant. And once that takes root, I will put it back in that mother pot, because it is not looking good at the moment. It actually looks pretty yucky. And I have no intentions of putting this up on a moss pole. So it's just going to have to be happy living in this trailing. So that is my Monstera Peru that I am not loving so much, and I have to fix. That's her pot there. I'll put the reservoir down. That is the root system over there. Roots are happy. It's pretty happy, but I'm pretty sure this is because of a lighting. This was probably a lighting situation, which hopefully is fixed now. So we'll see what this plant looks like in a few months. I'll keep you updated. If you're finding this video interesting, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Next up is one of my absolute favorite trailing plants. This is my Scindapsus exotica. Oh my gosh, look at the size of this leaf. Hang on. Oh, this one right here. It's almost as big as my head. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love this plant. I absolutely love it. This is her trailing. This vine is notorious. Look at the internodal space right there, the one that's dangling in front of my face. It's so long. The leaves are so far apart. Again, this is an indication of the lighting situation. I did have an incident with this plant. If you look at this leaf, you can see that discoloration over there. I did something. I sprayed something I shouldn't have sprayed on it inadvertently, and that's what that looks like now. But I love this plant. She is beautiful, living in my Italian leca in a 14 centimeter pot. And, oh, hang on. I'll put that down and show that to you. That is her reservoir over there. Look at those roots, looking absolutely beautiful. This plant is really happy. It is. All I need to do at this stage is actually give it better light, and it will just keep growing and looking like this. And when it bushes out a bit more, I'll get rid of those leaves that have that damage, and it'll be as good as new. This plant here is my biggest trailing plant. It's what I like to call my mishmash of trailing plants. I've got in here my Epipremnum golden ivies. I've got another type of Epipremnum, I don't know, maybe. And then I've got a Monstera adansonii in here. And look. She is just absolutely massive. There is so much plant there. It is brilliant. And she is living in a 20 centimeter pot in leca clay balls. Oh, and she's dry. That is the pot that this plant lives in. It's dry. And because she's so massive, she drinks like crazy. I'm telling you, I promise, I watered her yesterday. I don't understand why she's dry, because I knew I was going to be making this video, so I wanted the leaves to look great. I did water it, but it's dry. But look at that. It is absolutely fantastic. Those leaves are amazing. Look at that leca. And I'll show that to you again. Look, that is the pot there. And that is my plant. How amazing is this plant? Seriously, it is just to die for. I don't know, it just, look. I am speechless, absolutely speechless. Look at that. I could literally wear this as a costume if I wanted. Fabulous, fabulous plant. And she lives over here, draping over my bookshelf back there. And she drapes over and she's on the floor. And I try to get my 7-year-old daughter not to walk on her, because she's literally on the floor heading out towards the light of the windows that are in front of me. Absolutely brilliant plant. So I'm not just a one-trick pony. I love all sorts of plants. I love moss balls. I love trailing plants. All sorts. And if you want to keep seeing more of my plants, just watch this next video where I show you some of my gorgeous Syngoniums. I'll see you there.